Hello, people. This is Vinny from St. Augustine, Florida. And today we're going to do a review on the Cordoba Stage Series guitar. This is the Stage Traditional. And we're going to talk about the construction of the guitar, how it came set up, um, also the differences between the Stage and the Stage Traditional, the pickup system, and some tips on setting this guitar up and getting it to sound really good amplified. Now, first, let's talk about the construction of this guitar. Okay, let's talk about the differences between the Stage and the Stage Traditional guitars. Two of the main differences are the tops. The Traditional has a solid cedar top. The normal Stage has a solid spruce top. And the biggest difference is the neck. The neck on the traditional is much more like a classical guitar. Wider, flat radius, strings are spaced a little further apart. Great for a classical player. And it's actually a bit wider than the Cordoba GK Studio. And I'm going to put those two together so you can see the difference. The string spacing, though, is the same, I believe 52 millimeters. Okay, so here they are. And the Stage, which is in the back, I think you can visually see that the neck itself is a little bit wider. Okay, how did the guitar come? How was it set up? Out of the box, like other reviewers, the action was pretty high. I understand why they would make the action high. Some classical players like high action. This had to be adjusted here at the saddle, at the nut, and I adjusted the neck a tad. And I had to file down one of the frets after doing all of that. Let's get into it. So we need to get the action lower. And there is the saddle of the Cordoba Stage guitar. I took it out of the guitar along with some 100 grit sandpaper. It's pretty easy. You make a mark on the saddle. I think it was only 1 millimeter that I did at most. And you go back and forth and take your time with it. And I think I show a better picture of the mark. See how little I'm taking off. So I noticed that the strings were not sitting very well on that nut. And you can see on the E string especially, they're sitting a bit above the nut slot itself. So I detuned the guitar to move the string aside. Took some trusty sandpaper again, starting with 100 grit. And again, doing this pretty lightly. Just going back and forth in that nut slot. And what I would do is I would take the string, put it back, see how it looks, if it's pretty close. Then I believe I took some 320 or 400 grit sandpaper after that 100, just to clean it up, make sure there's no burrs in the nut slot itself. You want the string to be able to tune very easily. You don't want it to get stuck. The last thing that I had done is I adjusted the neck. I tightened it just about a quarter of a turn. And the truss rod is located on the head of the guitar. It's behind that rosewood with the 3 screws. I think I show a picture of. There it is right there. And there's a good picture of the truss rod cover. I believe it's a piece of rosewood. So again, to get this action lower and very playable, we took down the saddle, but not much. We opened up the nut slots a hair and just under a quarter of a turn, tightening of the neck. And that actually brought it down just a touch too. I did have to file and then crown one of the frets. I believe it was the 7th or 8th fret because there was a tiny bit of buzz. But now it's very playable, which is very cool. Okay, so I just wanted to take a minute to kind of give my thoughts and reaction on some other YouTube reviews or complaints, I guess. One was no tuner. Well, this is set up like an electric guitar more, and a lot of these chambered body guitars don't have tuners. It doesn't really matter. We'll get into that in just a moment. Another thing is no pick guard. Again, classical guitars usually don't have a pick guard. Flamenco guitars have a scratch-plated golpeador. So it's probably best just to have nothing on here and put whatever you want on or nothing. People ask quite a bit, how does it sound unplugged? It sounds like a chambered guitar. Does it sound great? No. I would not play this at a campfire. This is meant to be played on the stage, hence the name stage guitar. I would never play this like this. If I was sitting around the couch practicing, sure. There is enough volume so you can hear yourself. It's more than a silent guitar for sure. And that said, this does have enough volume pushing onto the top that the top does vibrate, and you do get more of an acoustic sound than a normal, let's say that Yamaha silent guitar, which is also a great guitar. But yeah, plugged in is the way to go. You don't play this unplugged for anyone. It doesn't sound like a banjo. You just heard it. I don't think that sounds like a banjo to me. Last thing, fret noise. A lot of complaints about fret noise. I actually put different strings on here. The Dario coated strings, I believe. I didn't notice much of a difference. I don't know if you can hear that. I've had other chambered acoustics before that were nylon. They all made fret noise once you amplified them in this way. If you had a mic, you might not hear that fret noise, but the way this is amplified, you're just going to get some of that noise. Not bad though. Again, it's not amplified, so you'll have some of that. Okay, on to other things. Okay, we've talked about the setup. It's very playable. Now let's get to the main point, the sound, and how this Fishman pickup works with the Cordoba stage guitar. The stage and the stage traditional are exactly the same as far as their amplification. This first knob right here is a volume knob. The second one is a tone knob, but it doesn't just stress the bass or treble. It kind of scoops out the mids and adds a little bass and treble. So think of that type of EQ. And this back here, your third knob, is for the transducers. I believe there's 2 transducers. They are stuck onto the cedar top, and they pick up the vibration of the cedar. And with this combination, you really can get a good sound out of the guitar. Okay, so I have the Cordoba Stage Traditional hooked up to my Fishman Loudbox Mini. My Loudbox has been acting up on me. It buzzes a little bit, but you'll still get a good example of how this thing sounds plugged in. So here it is with just the volume all the way up. No tone, no transducer pickups. Everything's set to 12 o'clock or to unity, and I did put a little reverb on it. So this is just the UST, the undersaddle pickup. Okay, now I'm going to turn up the tone control. So you'll hear the scoop in the mids, and you'll the emphasis on the bass and treble. All the way down. All the way up. All the way down. All the way up. Whoops. Now all the way back down are 2 transducer pickups. All the way up. Darker sound, a little bit hollow sounding. All the way down. All the way up. Obviously more volume. Now with the tone all the way up. Everything is all the way up. again, just the undersaddle. Both pickups. Tone all the way up as well as both pickups. Some suggestions. Not everything up. Volume is all the way up. Let's take the undersaddle pickup, keep that all the way up. The two transducers about a third down, as well as the tone control about a third down. To me, this seems like a happy place for me. Now I'm going to do one more thing and take the bass out of the amp itself, the Mini. It's about 10 o'clock now. Now it's more manageable if you want to turn this back up. Both pickups are on 100%. Take a little bit off. To me, that's a very nice sound. And there isn't a lot of separation between the strings, which is great for fingerstyle playing. It might still be too much bass for flamenco, in my opinion. I would probably take this pickup, the third knob, down even more. Whoops. To me, it's a very nice sounding guitar. Okay, so here's some tips on amplifying this guitar. I've had it just a few weeks. I took a good day of setting this up and then a few days trying to get a really good sound. And some tips. Number one, get yourself a acoustic guitar multi-effects with a tuner. This way you have a tuner with you at all the times. Plug it in, you have an EQ, you have reverb, everything's right there. You can get a cheap Zoom acoustic processor, one of the older ones, for probably 40 or 50 bucks. I'm using a Zoom, the acoustic, I think it's A14. It's $100 and something. Has everything you need in it, and it has great EQ. Now, if you just use an amp, you probably won't need that. But turn the bass down on your amp. Don't look at it and think it's not right because of visual. Do whatever you need to do to get it to sound good. Turning the bass up or down, turning the mids up or down. Don't worry if it doesn't look right, as long as it sounds right. Another big tip on amplifying your guitar: if you're messing with EQ, keep playing around. After a half hour, you're still doing this, put the guitar down, step aside, go get a little snack, get a drink, come back, give your ears a break. Even if you think you have it down, go and come back to it, listen to what you made adjustments to, and listen to that again. It helps a lot. Ear fatigue is real, so your ears do get tired. Give for amplifying, especially if you're gigging, go somewhere where you can turn it up to your level that you play, turn it up loud, and check on those same adjustments that you made. You don't want to make your adjustments at a very quiet level. Usually the bass is too high when you play low. And you'll notice that pretty quick once you get to the gig. You turn everything up and everything sounds a little bit not right. So definitely turn your amp up. Make sure you play a little bit loud to see how those adjustments that you made sound. And if you're on an amp and you use different guitars, take a picture of that front with the high, mid, low notch filter. If you have a notch, notches help a lot. That zoom pedal I mentioned has a auto feedback too, which is great. You press the button and strum a chord, and it picks out if anything's feeding back, and it notches it out for you. If you don't like it, you just press the button again, and it erases. All right, so what are my final thoughts on the guitar? I like it. I would purchase this again. After the setup, super easy to play, so light, especially if you have back problems or anything like that. It's so light. It's probably 5 to 6 pounds. Will not feed back, as I mentioned. So I dig it. I dig the sound of it. It's a great guitar. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments. If you want to subscribe, do all that. Like it if you like the video. Most importantly, enjoy the day. Also should mention that it comes with this pretty sweet gig bag.